All right, our recording has begun, and I will now introduce our panel this morning. We have Dave Husted, Senior Vice President of HR at MD Building Products, Kitt Letcher, President and CEO at Better Business Bureau of Central Oklahoma, Faith Foote, Director of Care Partner Relations at Senderide, Natasha Corcoran, Customer Service Manager at Senderide, and our two graduates who will be speaking later on this panel are Jamie Taylor, Sales Associate at Better Business Bureau of Central Oklahoma, and Marissa Stinson, Project Manager at Deep Fork Technology. To kick off our employer panel, I'm going to send this first question to Dave. Dave, will you tell us about why your organization took the pledge to become a Fair Chance employer? And after you speak to that question, we'll open it up to our additional employer panelists as well. Dave?
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully, everyone can hear me okay. Why did we take the pledge to become a fair?
Okay, good.
Why did we take the pledge to become a Fair Chance employer? You know, we started, so we have about 700 employees here in Oklahoma City, and we are a end-to-end manufacturer, raw material in one end and packaged goods out the other end. And we are continually challenged to create that trained and retained workforce. And as we begin to experience the different groups that are out there in community, working with a lot of different groups of people, we began to supplement our hiring with, I think, people that maybe we would have normally taken a pass on, people that out of, you know, some level of fear and ignorance may have just continued down the normal path of posting jobs where we normally post them and crossing our fingers and hoping that good qualified candidates come through the door who want to be part of a successful environment here and want to grow with the company. And as we begin to expand our net to find those individuals, we begin to experience people that were coming out of the criminal justice system that were demonstrating some personal growth and life skills that we immediately began to notice were just a cut above or a step beyond some of the normal candidates that we see. And so it was an easy decision when ReMerge began the work to pioneer the concept of Fair Chance employer. We had some very positive experiences that we began to analyze and measure, and it became a very easy decision, but ultimately a very good decision, both from a performance, a retention, and just an overall success to our business standpoint. And so that was what led us to making that pledge, and are happy to be involved in pursuing and furthering those efforts.
Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate your share on why you and MD Building Products really made that commitment to being a Fair Chance employer. Open it up to our additional employer panelists for the same question, or really telling us why you decided to be a Fair Chance employer.
I know here at Senderide, one of the reasons that we decided to, we heard about ReMerge from an HR consultant. And our company is built on the foundation of helping people who have a challenge in transportation. So it only made sense that we also help people that are facing challenges in the job market.
Thank you, Faith. Appreciate that. Kitt?
Sure.
We actually, at Better Business Bureau, we started hiring from ReMerge in 2015. And when Terry approached us about making this next step or next evolution in our hiring process, it was an interesting conversation because she just posed the question, would you ever consider hiring somebody from ReMerge? And because of other work that I've done with United Way, I had a really good understanding about the foundation and what ReMerge is all about. And when I sat there and just really thought about it, I could not think of a good reason why not. Because I have had family members who have dealt with addiction and been incarcerated and dealt with different prison systems, like family dynamic situations, employment situations, performance situations. And so when I think about them and I think about the type of work atmosphere that I wanted to create at Better Business Bureau and then be an example to other businesses, I could not come up with a good reason as to why, this part of our population should be excluded from thriving and from really becoming successful, because quite frankly, job opportunities is one of the hugest barriers that stand in their way. And I don't want to be a barrier. I want to be somebody who really helps support and is a part of the solution. And so that's how we got started. But honestly, and this is something that we talk about all the time, is ReMerge has been such a huge part of our success as a business and has made huge changes in the individuals that work within our organization who are not a part of ReMerge, but really benefit from the work that ReMerge is doing and the benefit from the relationships that we have with the different individuals within our office. So it was an easy yes, honestly, and every day it gets easier to say yes to new individuals who want to be a part of our organization. And when we talk about it with businesses, it can seem scary because there is a stigma associated with it and a perception of the type of people that you would be hiring, and you see what's on TV and you think that's what it is, and that's not the case. And Jamie's a great example of that. We have really fantastic, educated individuals who have great hearts and really tremendous work ethics and are absolutely tenacious, who have helped our business be really successful. And I'm so proud to have them as a part of our lives as well.
Kitt, your response was a perfect segue into my next question. So I'm going to pose this to you first to answer.
Okay.
Tell us what your experience has been like being a fair chance employer. You kind of touched on it already, but please elaborate more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's honestly one of the most rewarding part of our business. And it sounds cliche, and when I say it, especially in a group like this, because you guys obviously are interested in this part of a hiring process, but it is so deeply rewarding and satisfying in a way that I know we are making a difference within the Oklahoma City and Oklahoma community. I know that we are making a difference in a business community. I know that we make a difference in the people that we hire from ReMerge, but not just them, truly in everybody else who is a part of our organization. And so the things that we get to see and experience as a part of being a fair chance employer is, somebody who gets their first apartment, and somebody who's getting custody back of their children, and maybe they're getting their driver's license for their child support, paying off court fines and fees. And seeing those types of successes on a regular basis is tremendous. It adds to the culture and the growth of our entire organization. And it could be something like, we've had people come in and say, today I'm 1 year sober, or I'm 2 years or 3 years sober, or today I get to have my child spend the night with me for the very first time. That's huge. And you, as somebody who's never been just as involved in the way some of these ladies are, I cannot imagine not spending every day with my kids. And so then being able to see how much they've grown and how hard they've worked, it makes everybody else work that much harder. And I think it's just a great example of what we can do when we lift people up and we support them, and also provide a job opportunity that gives them financial stability and financial freedom is huge, because it's not a minimum wage job. It truly is a job where they can be successful and grow and financially independent, because we know that that's a barrier for staying out of incarceration and staying independent. And so we want to be part of that solution. And so I think I could list benefits all day long, but those are just a couple that really come to mind that have played a huge part in why we continue to participate with ReMerge and be a part of this program.
Excellent examples, Kitt. Thank you so much. Dave?
Well, I have to, agree with and recognize Kitt's comment that there's one side of the equation where your heart just really speaks, and you know that you are involving yourself in the in something that matters and makes a difference to people. But the other side to that is, does it make a difference to the business? And that's where we have a heavy emphasis at MD on measure everything. I want to know, how can we quantify that? And once we identify an anomaly, let's go do some roundtables and dig in and figure out what's the difference. Why is that? And so, speaking to our experience as a fair chance employer, and really kind of specifically for the purposes of this conversation about the program there at ReMerge, because it's one that should be it should be studied, and parts of it should be duplicated in any program that is out there, because there's a process involved. And in what we found out, first, the data. We looked at two key pieces of information, and one was individual employee performance, and the other one was retention. And so, are we training them to do a good job, and are they applying that learning? And then, does that cause them to find confidence and success on the job, to cause them to want to stay and continue to grow? And so, what we found on the performance side is that over 50% of the population that has come through fair chance employment performs at the exceeds expectations level, versus 20% of our regular employee population. So meets expectations versus exceeds expectations. The other thing we looked at was retention. And that's where really the eye opener was, that across our group of employees that have come out of a fair chance employment program, our turnover is at 10% and has been lower than 10%. Our regular employee turnover creeps up dangerously close to 50% sometimes, depending on the time of the year. And so we start conducting conversations, holding employee roundtables, because we want to know what's driving it, what's the difference. And it's the process that I spoke to that these employees have gone through prior to putting in an application with MD, where they have spent time not just coming to know themselves and who they are as parents, who they are as employees, who they are as productive and responsible citizens of the world, but they've also spent time focusing on skills and growing their skills to be able to communicate with others, to be able to take direction and understand how to apply it, how to recognize what's expected of them, and then go meet, or in many cases exceed, that expectation. And we just don't find that with the overwhelming majority that come in, unsolicited off of the street, just looking for a job. Many times you look at their history of employment, it's pretty obvious that they do still have things to figure out about who they are and what they want and what their goals are and how to best achieve those goals. And I just love talking to a fair chance employment candidate who has done a lot of the work to understand the answers to those questions. And so how they acclimate and assimilate in the work environment, how they present themselves as, just ready, willing, and able employees, were our takeaways from our focus groups of this is just a more dialed in group of people who come in the door with goals and beyond what you see from a lot of your regular off the street candidate pool.
Dave, I love the data points that you share. I think that really hits home, and it really certainly, like you said, it quantifies the difference and really what makes those fair chance candidates stand out and how they're impacting your organization. I love that you have the data to back it up. Thank you for sharing that. And Faith and Natasha, ask the same question of you, what your experience has been like as a fair chance employer. And I know you've got one rock star on your team right now, so I'd love to hear your thoughts to share with us on what your experience has been like.
It feels great to help those who are working hard to correct their previous issues, and watching the personal and professional growth has been very rewarding for me personally. The hard work that we see put in, like I said, both personally and as an employee is really incredible.
We've got one from ReMerge, and we do have another fair chance employee as well, and both are doing incredibly well. They're both some of our most dependable employees. One has promoted recently. They're both just doing very, very well. We know that we can count on them. They're here every day. They've got a great attitude, and they're very, very grateful for the opportunity.
That's so wonderful to hear, Faith and Natasha. Thank you both so much for sharing that feedback on your fair chance employees that you have. Would like to ask you both to lead us in answering this next question. I think, and correct me here if I'm wrong, Faith and Natasha, but I think Send a Ride is a bit newer to being a fair chance employer, and thinking about before you made that pledge and took a commitment, made that commitment to being a fair chance employer, share with us what you wish you knew, or maybe really leading that into the guidance that you would give others who are exploring becoming fair chance.
I think it's good to understand where they're at in the program, and to know what their needs will be. So communication is key. Having open communication, what their requirements in the program and what their I'm lost my word. They've got certain commitments to the program that they have to be at, and make sure that your schedule can work around that. That was probably the one thing that was, I would say, I hate to even call it a challenge, but that if there was a challenge involved, that was it. Just making sure that we had open communication, and we're able to work schedules around all of their commitments with ReMerge. Other than that, it's really just been such a positive. Even that's not a bad experience by any means. It just requires a little extra communication, and things to consider whenever you're going into it.
Thank you for sharing that, Faith. Really appreciate that. Dave, what do you think an employer should consider before taking the pledge to become fair chance? What guidance would you give to others?
That's a really great question. I think there's two things that pop out to me. Number one is that similar to a lot of other efforts, whether you are spending time focusing on inclusion and diversity, or you've got to prepare your workforce, which doesn't mean sending out a big announcement or holding meetings, but working with your leadership team to kind of pave the way for the fact that we're going to bring in a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, and our role as leaders is to help people find the commonality that they have, which we hope is to do a good job and help make the organization successful. But people have to begin to have open minds to the fact that not everybody who comes through the door is going to be from the same place you are, have the same background, the same set of experiences. And so that's not what determines a great coworker, a great team member. It's our ability to build relationships together, understand the goal that we're trying to achieve, and then, figure out how to pull in the same direction and on the same end of the rope. And so there's some work that needs to be done there. But the second piece I'll say to that is just from an infrastructure standpoint, I really do, we really are talking about somebody who's coming in the door with some aspiration. And as an organization, you've got to be ready to feed that, whether it is being able to give them information about what their future could look like there and having tools in place that help them to achieve it. What you don't want to have happen is have somebody come in and see no path. And we find that the overwhelming majority of fair chance candidates come through the door with the idea that they're looking for a path. And so as an organization, you've got to be ready to provide that.
Thank you, Dave. I love definitely hearing that, the open-mindedness in hiring, it's a diverse talent pool. And I think, whether you have very specific D&I efforts within your organization and having that open mind when you're hiring, and I think a lot of employers have certainly explored these diverse talent pools, and having that open mind, and that's so critical, I think, to working with fair chance candidates. And great advice, Dave. Thanks for sharing. Kitt.
Yeah, thank you. So I will echo a couple of the comments that have already been made, but just a little bit of a different twist. And like to Dave's point with just people being on board with hiring, we did it just a tiny bit different. We got our leadership on board, which I totally agree with that, but then we did not tell anybody else on our team. We were a fairly small team of about 10 at the time. And the first person that we hired in 2015, we just said, we understand what you're working with, and we're all on the same page between the three of us. And when you are comfortable, we will support you telling people your story, so that it came from that individual. And it wasn't us making it seem like, okay, you guys, we have this really special case and we're doing this experiment. And we just kind of kept it as our own little secret's not the word, because we were really trying to honor that individual's story, in that she got to share as much as she wanted to. And we wanted her to feel comfortable before she shared anything. And she got to make that decision. Nobody was making that decision for her. And so then whenever she did, she'd already been accepted. She'd already been part of the group. And so as she shared more nuggets, it just really fostered that inclusive environment. So then whenever she said, hey, I have this person that's also at ReMerge that I think would be a really great fit, it wasn't just to myself or to the person who's over our sales team. She said it to the whole organization. And so then everybody had buy-in, and it was really neat to see it grow from that perspective. And so I would say, if it doesn't have to be a huge endeavor, just start with one. Just start with one person and find a good fit and figure out what that looks like. Because just like the lady said with Cinder Ride, where they are in the program is really important, because you have to make sure that fits with the flexibility necessary for your work environment. And so we typically only hire whenever they are late stage 3, like getting ready to go into stage 4. When they're in stage 4, it's honestly a perfect fit for us, because they have more independence, they have more ability to work their schedule, and there's still obviously like times when they have to go to counselings and court sessions and different things like that are really out of their control. So we work really hard to have a flexible office environment so that they can work around those things, because they don't get to set those appointments. The judge says, you be here then, and you show up. Kid at BBB doesn't get to say, oh, that doesn't work for us. Try to make it this other time. So we have to be cognizant of the different restrictions and parameters that individual is working with. And so I would say that's something that we just learned to become more and more flexible with over the years. And then the other things that we have seen is, we've had individuals who've relapsed, who have gone through traumatic family situations, and, maybe things have come up that they didn't really expect. And so what we learned is that we need to stay really involved with ReMerge so that we understand whenever something comes up that we can be an advocate too and reach out to ReMerge on their behalf and say, hey, it would be great if you checked in with this person, or I've noticed this happening at work, or I think they're struggling in this area, not because I'm trying to tattletale, but because I'm trying to be supportive. And ReMerge has been such a huge support for them all along the way that there are times when you have to wrap arms around a little stronger and be more supportive than other times. And so making sure that the individuals know that they always have that support and that it really comes from both sides. It's not just a one side of the coin. Because we want everybody to get as much help as they need. And what's great about that is, again, that really fosters that conversation with the rest of our team who maybe don't have ReMerge as a support to turn to, but have needed additional like counseling or things have come up. They've had a death in the family that they don't know how to deal with. And so being able to reach out to that team and say, hey, I have this other person. Can you make a recommendation for us? Because mental health is such a huge part of a positive work environment, and really being open and honest and communicative about what people's needs are. We have to be okay with talking about it and providing the resources, like the person to talk to. Because the team may not feel comfortable coming to me and saying, hey, I need this, which is perfectly fine. But there are other people in the organization that they know they can go to and have a conversation with, and that it'll be kept confidential if they need it to. And or they can say, I don't want to talk to Kitt about that. Will you talk to her? Yeah, absolutely. That person can feel comfortable talking to me. So making sure that we have all of those lines of communication open, and being more, I would say, transparent about what that looks like so people understand their resources and what's available to them, because things happen to people every single day. So we need to be mindful of that and provide as much support as we possibly can. So I would say the flexibility is a huge part of it, those resources, and then just realizing that we have to be open to new things that are coming through. And like Dave said, our workforce that we have from ReMerge is tenacious. They have a work ethic that is unmatched. And oftentimes we're not necessarily ready for it. So when they really hit the ground running, we have to be able to keep pace with them. And that's a really good skill set and quality to have, because we've certainly hired from plenty of other industries and resources where it's just like, come on, like just show up. Please just show up. That's all I need you to do today. And that's not the case with the ladies that we hire from ReMerge. They're showing up and like kicking in the door and like ready to get on the phone and make it happen. So it's awesome. And I can't say enough good things about them, because they're here to succeed. They're not trying to get by. They are here to thrive and succeed and build a better life for themselves and their families.
Great feedback, Kitt. Thank you so much for touching on so many great points there. I really like the start with one, and having the buy-in from the entire team. That really supports that wraparound conversation, making sure that everyone's engaged in supporting the outcomes of those employees. And I think, that's critical to have that buy-in like that. So thank you so much for sharing. Last question for our employer panel. Share with us the steps you recommend an employer take after they make that pledge or that commitment to be fair chance. Dave, would you like to please start us off with that question?
Yes, thanks. I would really just probably, echo the comments made with regard to the last question of, your development of your leadership group doesn't need to be specific to, fair chance employment. It doesn't need to be specific to an individual that's coming in the door. You just have to make sure you understand your team's mindset and really their capacity to understand the goals that you're trying to achieve, that really anybody could come through the door from any walk of life. And too often, as a hiring manager, you slip into a routine of looking for the same person and hiring somebody that fits into some tight parameters, and you miss the value that a diverse group of people can bring into your organization. And so if you're not doing the work currently to talk with leaders about their role in how to evaluate the skills or the attitudes that someone is bringing into the organization, and then you're going to miss some great opportunities. And the other thing is to be set up to, like Kitt said, be ready to run as fast as they want to run. It could be some of your best candidate for future leadership role, as long as they're not hitting roadblocks and dead ends within the organization to be able to succeed. So, having a leader that knows how to ask the question, what are you looking for here? What do you want to be in it for you with this opportunity? It's a simple question, but a lot of people have a difficult time asking it. And then prepare yourself to deliver on the what's in it for them. And if it's skill building, work with your resources to be able to deliver it. If it is true career pathing, again, work with your resources so that you can give that information back to that hungry individual to say, let's set something short-term and something long-term. And we'll make sure that they're aligned, and then I'll be your partner to work on helping you to achieve those short-term goals on your way to your longer-term goals. And that's a servant leader concept that is on us to continue to translate that and develop leadership toward understanding how to meet and exceed the goals and the needs of individual people. So I would tie in those the responses to those questions.
Dave, I think you just need to make a roadmap for the group. That was so spot on. Thank you so much for sharing. Excellent tips. Open it up to Kitt, Faith, and Natasha. Any additional comments that you all would like to share on steps that you would recommend an employer taking after they make the pledge to be Fair Chance?
You covered so much, there's not a whole lot left. It was very thorough. I would say that, just like, just to add on that, everybody comes in with their own story, whether it's a ReMerge employee or just anybody. And so maybe exploring trauma-informed training, reaching out to your HR for sources like that. Also, another resource that we found was to contact the workforce on a job training for possible wage reimbursement. There's some programs out there like that are really great as well.
Excellent, Faith and Natasha. Thank you for sharing. Kitt?
I think the only thing I would really add to this portion of the conversation is that before you hire an individual from a program like ReMerge and you're really thinking about going down this road, you need to have an honest conversation about your perceptions, preconceived notions, stigmas, and things that you anticipate getting asked about. For instance, I run a nonprofit. We have a lot of issues within the nonprofit world that I've seen from a multitude of organizations with embezzlement and fraud. It is a very real thing. And so if you have a stigma that, I can't hire somebody from an organization like ReMerge because then people are going to think that this is going to happen at my organization, you have to be really open and honest about that. Not that it's going to happen, but that if you feel like you have this weakness within your organization, there are internal controls that you should be setting up anyway, not because you're wanting to hire somebody who's been justice involved, but because you have a weakness within your organization. And so if you can't justify this because of this one thing, then there's other things that you should be putting in place. All the ladies from ReMerge take credit card information at our office, and we have internal controls to prevent theft and fraud, not because these ladies are from ReMerge, but because we take credit card information. And that is something that we have to be mindful of as a business. And so regardless of who's taking that information, we have to have policies and procedures in place to keep our business safe. And so that's one of the biggest questions that I get whenever I tell people about how we hire from ReMerge. They're like, oh my gosh, what are you going to do if they steal from you? It's like, are you kidding me? What would I do if anybody stole from me? It happens every single day. And that's not to say just because you fit in this one box that you are going to do that. I could hire somebody off of the street that I don't know. I certainly don't have any references from an organization like a ReMerge, and I'm trusting that they are going to do the right thing and that they're not going to commit a crime and they're not going to take advantage of the things that we have in place. So we are really putting ourselves into a situation where those things can happen regardless of who we hire. So if you're worried about those things, you should put processes, procedures, filters in place so that regardless of who you hire, that's not a threat. And so that I would say you just have to be really honest about what those threats look like and what your stigma is related to them. And if you are saying no to an opportunity to hire somebody who's awesome because you're worried about the what if you're worried about the what if, fix it. And if that's not your issue, then I would say take a chance, because all it has done for us is create really fantastic rewards for a business. And I think made us an example of a great way to do business and really to create a better community that we all live in.
Excellent, Kitt. Thank you so much for closing us out with that question and that discussion. That was some excellent guidance, excellent recommendations for employers and other partners to think about. Thank you so much to our employer panelists. Really appreciated you sharing your guidance, your experiences, your best practices. So valuable for this conversation. And since we've heard from our employer panelists this morning, we're now going to transition and hear for a few minutes from a couple of our graduates before we open it up to the audience for Q&A. So I have a couple questions this morning for our graduates. I'm going to start this first question off with Jamie. Jamie, tell us about your experience working with a Fair Chance employer.
I'm Jamie. And my experience has been nothing but amazing. Just being able to go into my employment place and being able to openly share about my background and the things that I went through without judgment is what means the most to me. And knowing that I've been giving a chance, and I mean, because all my life I've worked, fast food and stuff like that. And I've actually got my first felony case when I was 17 and was trialed as an adult. So, even after that, I struggled real hard with what was pending on my background, and so being able to work at the Better Business Bureau and have been given that opportunity has been nothing but amazing. And then the job, of course, I worked prior to this, and so, and then what I'm experiencing here, just the relationships that I built amongst my workplace and the financial freedom that I'm finally gaining has been nothing but motivation. And so I'm comfortable here, and I don't know, I love it. I love just being given an opportunity without judgment, for sure, and not having to go into detail about why I did the things I did or why I have these felonies on my record. And honestly, I don't even think I had to explain my background to Kitt or Ryan. So, yeah, it's been amazing.
Thank you, Jamie. Really appreciate your feedback there. I know I've had a chance to visit you out at BBB along with Kitt, and it's wonderful to see you in action. Thank you so much. Marissa, same question to you. Tell us about your experience working with a Fair Chance employer. Oh, let me unmute. You're on mute, Marissa. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my experience with Deep Fork technology is, it's just amazing. I'm very grateful. Beginning ReMerge, that was the one thing I needed to gain before completing ReMerge was a real career, not just a job, just a career. That's something I can take with me to stay productive and stay independent. Deep Fork really just opened me with open arms and no judgment. You know, I'm so used to hiding, just hiding my past, having to kind of feel ashamed or, you know, wait for the judgment to come. But I have just gained an amazing support system here. And it's just really comforting. I can let my guard down and I can really, I think that affects my work ethic a lot. I mean, I give a lot more to this company. I'm a lot more dedicated. I just overall feel very grateful. And I feel like I'm embracing my journey, and I feel like Deep Fork is part of this journey. And I mean, I was only working at Deep Fork for maybe a month when my DHS case finally closed, and everyone kind of surprised me with a celebration for it. And it wasn't like, only if you're comfortable, you know, because there's other people there, and they were totally aware of, hey, we're not going to make this about this if you're not comfortable, but we still wanted to celebrate this with you. And it's just been little things like that this whole time. It just really makes a difference. I have conversations with my boss all the time. Just he feels really grateful that he took a chance, and I'm just really grateful that he took a chance on me. I've just gotten multiple raises. I am just really moving up in my career, which overall is moving up in my life. I don't know. I feel like, you know, I have my plan for my life, and I can do that now with a really good job, a really good career. And that's just my experience, and I'm just going to keep moving forward with it. So.
That is so wonderful to hear, Marissa. Thank you so much for sharing about what your journey has been like at Deep Fork. And while we have just a couple minutes left with our graduates, Marissa, I'm going to pivot this question to you. And as I set the stage for this question, wanted to share that in the chat, I've posted a link to ReMerge's Fair Chance Employer landing page. There's some additional resources there from SHRM and other entities that support the Fair Chance conversation. And there is a contact form where you can submit your information if you are interested in taking the pledge to become Fair Chance. That said, Marissa, why do you believe it's important for employers to take that pledge to become Fair Chance?
You know, give everyone a chance. I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like for a lot of women, I mean, we really want this. We really want to do better. Just giving people a chance without the judgment. I mean, this is life-changing for people, and I think that is rewarding for the employer. I don't know, just to kind of fill their hearts a little bit, but also kind of like, yeah, these women they really want this. And I think that gives a lot to your company. And you'll see that a lot come from their work ethic and stuff, so.
Thank you, Marissa. Jamie, same question to you. Why do you believe it's important for employers to take the pledge to become Fair Chance?
I I think it's really important because we're human at the end of the day, you know what I mean? And everybody lives a different life, and everybody's gone through different things. And so just because somebody's done something in the past does not make them who they are today. And you'll see that, you know, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people either go back to prison or they relapse because it's so hard to find somebody willing to give you a chance when you have something on your record. You know what I mean? And I'm a hard worker, and I'm trustworthy, and I'm dependable. And I know all these things, you know, and before I didn't, but without giving that person a chance, you're never going to know. And I think that was my biggest problem with finding a job with all these pending felonies, because I've got 7 of them, was the fact that on an application, they ask, have you been convicted of a felony? Well, I don't want to put that down because my main goal is to get to the interview first, so that maybe I can open up to you and let you know a little bit about my life before you make that decision of what comes back on my background, you know. And so just because, like I said, at the end of the day, we're human. We're just like you know what I mean? We've just gone through some things. And I think that giving somebody the benefit of the doubt can really, you know, help your business too. But not only that, but it helps us, you know, and it boosts our confidence. And so I really think it's important because we're no different than anybody else, really. We've just struggled. So that's all.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you very much to you and Marissa both for sharing some feedback on what your experience has been like working with Fair Chance employers and why it's important to take that pledge. We do have 10 minutes remaining. I am going to open it up for Q&A, and I do have a guest on the call who would like to share about the talent coming from the federal prison industry, and I'd love to open it up to that guest to unmute and share a bit about that talent pool.
Hey, thanks. My name is Eric. I'm coming from the federal prison aspect, working with the federal prison industries. And I think a lot of times what people fail to realize about the federal prison industries is that these guys are actually working with up-to-date software, up-to-date programs, ISO 9001, 2015, Lean Six Sigma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of times what happens is when these guys are released and they have to go through different hiring agencies, what happens is a lot of times the HR team just looks through their background and see that they have a felony or something, and they pretty much disqualify these people. And it's sad because so many people are missing out on great talent. I mean, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the federal prison industries, but I mean, this company has been around since 1932, and they do everything from make furniture to put decals and wiring systems on Border Patrol vehicles and law enforcement vehicles. And I just think that, you know, this is a great forum and a great opportunity for people to know that, hey, if you see someone that's coming from the federal prison industries, you know, take a stronger look into this guy because, you know, it's a lot of talent there. I mean, I don't know how familiar you guys are with SAP, but, you know, SAP is the #1 computer software in the world. And these guys are working on this software pretty much a great deal of, you know, their time in incarceration. So I just wanted, you know, to share that with you and share that with anyone that's thinking about, you know, committing to turning over. Like, you know, there's a lot of talent out there that's overlooked, you know, because of the way that the system is set up. And like Dave said, and like, I'm sorry, I forgot her name, the lady from the Better Business Bureau said, you know, a lot of these people are dedicated. And the reason why they're dedicated is because everyone's looking for a chance, you know, looking for ways to support your family, looking for ways to support, you know, your loved ones. And you give this person a job, they're going to be loyal to you. Now, granted, I mean, I can't say that happens 100% of the time, but, you know, I just wanted to share that with you guys. You know, just if you see anyone coming from that industry, for me working with them personally, it's a great opportunity, very great opportunity.
Thank you so much for that feedback. Really, really great
No problem.
perspective. I so appreciate it. Thank you. I did have a question come to me privately in the chat asking, and this is for our employer panel, if the decision to hire justice-involved individuals is a business decision or a culture decision. And I'll open it up to whichever of our employers would like to take that question.
I'll jump in.
Go ahead, Dave, and then I'm going to answer next to you.
Okay, all right. Well, I think it's for sure both. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think in this day and age and looking into the future, if you don't focus on the strength of your culture, then you are limiting your potential as a business. And so a lot of different components to the culture, but the culture is defined by the people on the floor that experience the environment in your workplace. And so, you know, there's infrastructure pieces that have to be built in there so that it translates directly to success for the business, but you cap yourself if you don't focus on culture first. One of my very wise colleagues says that culture eats process for breakfast. So it's something that's very important to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would echo that. I think that's absolutely true. I think both are equally as important, one not more so than the other. But when we're looking at this from a business perspective, I will tell you that our sales team is in the top 10 in the country. And so we have over 100 BBBs. And when I'm looking at, you know, at least one has been number 1 and number 2 salesperson several years running for over 100 BBBs, that says volumes about their success for the workplace. But then when you compound that with the benefits that it brings to your culture and how it really, those two things work together, they have to go hand in hand.
Thank you both so much for your feedback on that question. We have 5 minutes left together. Any additional questions from the audience?
Hey, Christine.
Yeah.
So I work at DeechWorks, and we have the Traction Foundation and work with you guys at ReMerge, and are super excited about looking into partnering with Fair Chance Employment. But I wanted to see if Jamie or Marissa have some feedback on what would be the best way for me to kind of prepare my current workforce for other participants, and is that necessary? And if so, like, is it something I should do with the participant first? What's the best path for that?
Thank you, April. Marissa, go ahead.
I know for me, I would appreciate if it would be kind of something that we discussed first. I think it's a lot to walk into, especially, I don't know, I just think it's something personal. And it's kind of hard to kind of let your guard down a little bit, especially with your employer. So maybe something just to ease into maybe, and just talking with the candidate you want to hire first about it.
Thank you, Marissa. Jamie, anything you'd like to add to that? Okay, go ahead. Okay. Thank you.
That's very fair, and that's really kind of where I thought we were, but I have learned not to make any assumptions. So it's best to ask.
Absolutely. Appreciate the question, April. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Okay. I am going to share my email address. I'm sure you all have it as I've sent you Zoom invitations for today, but my email address is in the chat for you. I do have a couple of couple of questions here that I'm going to follow up with you all on via email, as well as including this recording of our Zoom meeting. And those two questions are, really sharing with you what's the benefit once you take the pledge of becoming a fair chance employer, and what you can expect from ReMerge once you do take that pledge. So I will follow up via email with you all by the end of this week with answers to both of those questions, along with the Zoom recording that the entire group will receive. Thank you all so much for attending today, and a very special thanks to all of our panelists, Dave, Kitt, Natasha, Faith, Jamie, and Marissa. We so appreciate you. And for those, again, who are interested in taking that pledge to become Fair Chance, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will be following up with some resources for all of you to receive, but would love to have a conversation with you if you are interested in exploring really what it means to be Fair Chance. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, everyone.